Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Weiss, you had made reference to the Alaska export issue, and there was also an essay that was recently released from the Center for American Progress. I guess it was published this week, that also made some claims about Alaskan crude oil exports. Mr. Chairman, I want to insert into the record a 1999 study from the GAO that examined the impacts of lifting the ban on crude oil exports from Alaska. And in that report, they state, despite higher crude oil prices for some refiners, no observed increases occurred in the prices of three important petroleum products used by consumers on the West Coast: gasoline, diesel, and jet fuel. This wasn't cited in the essay. I'd also like to submit for the record a report from CRS back in '06, which was also cited in this
Without
essay.
objection, that's ordered.
It's important that we make sure that we've got the full quotes in context there, so I wanted to make sure that we included that. Ms. Jaffe, you mentioned the tyranny of geography. I was just reading an article reported yesterday where because of the glut of the oil coming from the North Dakota into the Gulf refineries, that Texas is actually looking to move their crude through the Panama Canal up to the refineries in California. It speaks to the issue of alignment that Senator Landrieu mentioned, that we get to a point where we're going to have a mismatch between what we are producing domestically and our ability to meet the needs, the capacity within our refineries. So just understanding and appreciating that it's getting to the point now where we've reconfigured as many refineries as we can. Maybe there's a little more room there. We're looking to some pretty significant decisions. When you're moving crude from Texas through the Panama Canal to come up to the West Coast refineries and still hoping to make a profit there, we're looking for some solutions. But this issue of timeliness is one that I have been trying to track. In EIA's latest oil market report, they say the growing volumes of light, tight oil that cannot leave North America are increasingly posing a challenge to industry, putting the spotlight, of course, on where we are today, which is the oil export ban. So this timeline comes up a lot in discussion. I'm not asking Mr. Hamm or Ms. Jaffe for a date certain, but really, what is your general sense on when these initiatives collide, if you will, with production? And when do we hit that misalignment or that mismatch that could then cause some real disruption? And again, something that I think we all try to avoid. And I'll start with you, Mr. Hamm, and then Ms. Jaffe.
Okay. Thank you, Senator. I think the mismatch is beginning to happen already. So many refineries were outfitted or refitted, for heavier crude when it didn't look like supplies would be here domestically. And that most of what they'd be refining would be the tar sand, the bitumen oil. And so with those retrofits, the sweet crude doesn't fit very well with some of them. But you need to move that then to the more efficient ones that could handle this light, sweet, low sulfur premium crude oil that we're producing in North Dakota and other places in the U.S. now. So the mismatch is beginning to occur. A lot of people expect it to occur almost as quickly as the oversupply of natural gas, but there, supply and demand was equal. Price had been elevated a little bit with projections of shortage in the future, but with oil, we've come from a 60% deficit with the oil in the U.S., and our imports have been 60%, and reduced that halfway to about 32% in 9 years. And that's a really good move, and it was slower at first.
Let's go to Ms. Hamm. Ms. Jaffe, Mr. Hamm says it's coming soon. When are we going to see a mismatch?
Well, when you look at the sort of specialized models for the trading of products and crude oil, people anticipate that by 2016, our condensate flows will be so high that mixing them into the crude stream, exports to Canada, use in petrochemicals, use in refining, will max out for our physical facilities unless there's some giant upsurge in investment for specialized equipment, which is not on the horizon right now. In 2016, we would face a situation where companies like Continental Resources might actually have to stop drilling because there would be a containment problem. We would not be able to find a place to store all of this condensate if we can't produce it and export it.
And we haven't seen a new refinery since in 25 years?
Well, we have seen two companies that I know of, Marathon and Valero. Valero has put in expanded a distillation tower in such a way to use more condensate. Marathon has made an investment in Ohio. But, these kinds of investments take time. And so, if we don't have a giant amount of investments announced in the next year or so, then I think that it'll be very difficult to absorb the condensate flows.
I'm well over my time. I know that Mr. Weiss is
Without
seeking
prejudicing
recognition.
any senator's time, if you could quickly offer your views.
Yes, thanks. I just wanted to, the Energy Information Administration has documented that the refining capacity in the last dozen years, since the year 2000, has increased by about 2.5 million barrels per day, even though we haven't opened a new refinery, and that the utilization rate is at about 87%. So, and third, there are numerous refineries that are going to be expanding over the coming years in North Dakota and Texas.